again. I just finished my 1968 replay, and I haven't really been saying much on these, just kind of letting the games run through. I wanted to get back into this and kind of do what I did last time with 1968, and kind of run through the half the 1969 season, simulate kind of quick sim through that, but kind of explain some of the off-season changes from 68 to 69 using historic career mode. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and choose my career. And like I did last time, the first thing I want to do is I want to show everyone under transactions. These are all the changes that have occurred as a result of switching out the 68 season to the 69 season. So, and you can do this team, by team. These are the moves. These are the moves. Basically, these are kind of like, I don't know if you call them free agent signings, but basically, these are players that were either part of trades, they were either waived and let go and then picked up by other teams, um, or what have you. I don't think they had free agency back then, so it was probably one or the other. It was either trades or, again, one team or a player quitting on one team and then signing with a different team through a waiver process. So Atlanta had a lot of moves you can see in the offseason. Kind of looking for the ones that have high overall ratings. Those are significant. So you can see Gail Cogdill is moving over from the Colts to the Falcons as a wide receiver. See Bruce Bosley, an offensive lineman from the 49ers, moving over to Atlanta. Let's see, what else do we have here? Colts only had really two major moves. Looks like they signed Ron Kostelnik. I think I pronounced that correctly. Defensive lineman with the Packers. The Patriots with quite a few moves in the offseason. Charlie Frazier from Houston, they signed as a wide receiver. Let's see who else they've got. Marty Schottenheimer, he wasn't quite a head coach yet. Moving over from Buffalo. Let's see. Those are not anything too big there. Buffalo looks like they got Marlon Briscoe, who was a quarterback / wide receiver, and he was signed over from Denver. The Bears, nothing major here. Maybe George Youngblood, a defensive back from Cleveland, as well as a tight end, Ray Ogden. Cincinnati, here's a big one. Wide receiver Eric Crabtree signed from Denver over to the Bengals, along with Chip Myers from San Francisco. That's a big one there. Moving on, let's see. Cowboys, Bobby Joe Conrad from the Cardinals is a wide receiver, and also Mike Ditka. That's a big one there. Mike Ditka moving from the Eagles to the Cowboys in '69. The Broncos signed Dave Pivik, tight end from the Rams. Let's see, Bobby Williams coming over as a defensive back and a kick returner from the St. Louis Cardinals to the Lions. Paul Lowe coming from the Chargers to the Chiefs. That's sort of the end of his career. Towards the end of his career, you can see he's positioned as a wideout, but he was actually a running back, and we talked about that in the previous one of the previous videos, how we manage these rosters, as to why he might be a wideout as opposed to a running back. Warren McVay from Cincinnati signed with the Chiefs. Let's see, Alvin Haven coming over from the Eagles as a kick returner for the Rams. Let's see, Richie Pettibone, that's a big one. Defensive back for the Bears, moves over to the Rams. Bob Brown, rated a 99 overall, offensive lineman for the Eagles, moves over to the Rams. The Rams making a lot of major moves from 68 to 69. Probably a good thing, because they really underperformed in 67 and 68, which were two seasons in real life that they really did well, but not in my simulation. Let's see what else. I mentioned Alvin Heyman, defensive back, also a punt returner. Backup quarterback Carl Sweeten from the Saints, and Izzy Lang, a wide receiver from the Eagles. So signed a lot of players from the Eagles. Interesting. lot of players. Wow. Okay. The Dolphins, big signing there. Nick Bonicani coming over from Boston. So Nick Bonicani is now with the Dolphins. Um, let's see. The Vikings signed Kent Kramer, a tight end from the Saints, along with Gary Quazzo, who will be a quarterback there for the Vikings. I'm not sure if he'll be a backup quarterback to Joe Kapp in '69. Moving on to the Saints. Any big names here? Al Dodd, who was rated in '86 from the Bears. He will be with the Saints. And Don Talbert and Errol Linden, offensive linemen, both with the Falcons, moving over to the Saints. So those are two major players from the Falcons moving over to New Orleans. And Andy Livingston moving over from the Bears. He's a running back. He's moving over to the Saints. Apologies for my voice. I'm getting over a cold here, so hopefully my audio is loud enough you guys can hear me. Moving on to the Giants, Junior Coffey from the Falcons. Let's see what else we got here. Rich Kotite, future coach, moving over from the Steelers as a tight end. Doug Van Horn, that's a big one, from Detroit, offensive lineman, being signed by the Giants. Let's see what else we got. Raiders signing Rod Sherman from the Bengals as a wide receiver, and also Nehemiah Wilson, defensive back from Denver. Moving on to the Eagles. We're wearing white helmets in 1969, at least they did on the road. Let's see who they've signed. Irv Cross. So you saw all those players signed over from the Eagles to the Rams. Well, there's a lot of players now signing over from the Rams to the Eagles, and I assume there was probably a big trade that occurred between those two teams in 1969, so that probably explains that. But Irv Cross, a big name there, being signed. Harold Jackson signed from the Rams over to the Eagles in '69, as well as Joe Carollo, offensive lineman, signed over to the Eagles from the Rams. Excuse me. Let's see what else we had here. For the Steelers, Jim Shorter coming over from Washington. Let's see any other major players here. Nothing that stands out. The Chargers, Pete Barnes coming over from the Houston Oilers. So he's going to be on the Chargers in '69. The 49ers, let's see, Rosie Taylor, not rated very high, but a defensive back, veteran defensive back for the Bears, big part of that team that won the Super Bowl in '67. He's now with the 49ers. And no other big names there I can see. The Cardinals get John Gilliam, wide receiver from the Saints. That's a big one. The Redskins get Bob Long, wide receiver from Atlanta, as well as Walter Roberts, who came over from the Saints. I think he was at one time with the Browns as well. Let's see his career history. Yes, he was with Cleveland at one time. Charlie Haraway as a fullback from the Browns. And Frank Ryan as a backup quarterback they get from the Browns as well. Excuse me. So here's all the players that were drafted, and these are actually the draft positions. One thing I did notice, there was a mistake in the league file for '69, specifically with the 49ers, where the rookies are all designated correctly as rookies, but none of them had their pick number and draft round number. So those aren't reflected in the top here. They'll be reflected at the bottom as unsigned free agents, but they're not. And you'll notice that where some of these are missing. The first one I noticed was Gene Washington for the 49ers. He was drafted in the first round, the number 7 overall. So you can see he's missing here. But we'll see him down the list. So number 1 draft pick was O.J. Simpson. He went number 1. He was also a kick returner that year. So he goes in the first round for the Bills. Pretty major one. I wonder how his career will turn out. George Coons, offensive lineman, was the 2nd overall pick. 3rd overall pick was Leroy Keys for the Eagles. And then you got Mean Joe Green coming in into the league in '69 as the 4th overall pick for the Steelers. Let's go down the list here, see what other big names pop out. Bill Stanfill for the Dolphins, Fred Dreyer for the Giants. Roger Worley gets drafted by the Cardinals. These are all first-round picks. Bob Klein for the Rams, Jim Marsalis, defensive back, Calvin Hill, halfback, signed by the Cowboys. Let's see what else. Bill Berge starts his career with the Bengals. The Mad Stork, Ted Hendricks, is drafted by the Colts and is picked in the 2nd round, 33rd overall. So you got defensive lineman Bob Hines. So you can see the Dolphins, and they're starting to build up their team in anticipation of what should be a pretty consistent run for them. And once we get into the 70s, Bobby Douglas is picked up by the Bears. Ed Podolak by the Chiefs. Let's see what other big names we got here. Carl Garrett goes to the Patriots. Larry Walton for the Lions. Bill Thompson by the Broncos. Eugene Mercury Morris is drafted by Miami. Man, that's a big draft for the Dolphins. Big offseason for the Dolphins in '69. Bill Bradley for the Eagles. Further down the list here, see any names pop out. Jim Mitchell was a big tight end for the Falcons, drafted there in '69. Charlie Joyner, drafted by the Houston Oilers. He goes at the 93rd overall in the 4th round. Roy Gerela goes to Houston as a kicker. Let's see what else we got here. Ah, yes, Fairhooker. Another one of those funny names from the past. A favorite of Dandy Don Meredith. Ken Riley, drafted by the Bengals in '69. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, there's one that snuck through there. Larry Brown. He wasn't picked till the 8th round. 191st overall. I wonder how his career is going to turn out. Right out of the gate, he's rated pretty high as a running back. So the Redskins get him in a late round. Dave Hampton by the Packers. L.C. Greenwood. So in the same draft they get Mean Joe Green, they get L.C. Greenwood in the 10th round. 238th overall, the Steelers get L.C. Greenwood. Speaking of the Steelers, John Fuqua was drafted by the Giants. He eventually went up to Pittsburgh. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, that's it. And here's your undrafted free agents. But again, these were guys that were left off. I think the only one that was actually undrafted, it shows up on the '69 league file, is Robert Brown as a tight end for the Cardinals. But all of these guys were drafted, actually. And so I've since corrected that league file and uploaded that. So if anyone's downloading the '69 season to use for the first time, those should be correctly indicated as when they were drafted in that league file. All right, again, apologies for my voice, kind of hoarse here. So let's start with week 1. We're going to simulate these games. Now, these are all AFL games in week 1, so I want to make sure that in my career editor, my league rules reflect that. Excuse me, and the only difference, really major difference, I think, in the rules between AFL and NFL in '69 was that the AFL could go for 2 after a touchdown. So we want to make sure that's reflected correctly for this particular week. And so let's go ahead and simulate these games. See how this all works out. Let's reveal them. And in week 1, we've got the Bills beating the Jets. That's a major upset, I believe, right? Because the Jets were actually in the AFL Championship game at '68. And the Bills get that win, so that's a big one. Miami defeats Cincinnati 21-14. Denver beats Boston 24-14. Oakland, the defending champs in the AFL, they defeat the Houston Oilers 24-16. And the Kansas City Chiefs, who are perennial contenders in the AFL, they open up with a big win in San Diego over the Chargers, 28-21. So let's go to week number 2, and now the NFL starts to play. So let's do the AFL games first. That way we don't have to worry about changing the rule sets just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and sim those games. All right. And let's go ahead and let's back out. Let's go back to the career editor. Let's change the league rules to no for can we go for 2 after a touchdown. And now we will go in and we will simulate the NFL games. So San Francisco, Atlanta, LA, Baltimore. That seems like that would be a big game. The Colts are defending champs in my simulation in 69. St. Louis, Dallas. Chicago, Green Bay. Washington, New Orleans. Minnesota, New York. Cleveland and Philadelphia. And Detroit and Pittsburgh. And let's reveal them all. Let's see how week 1 for the NFL and week 2 for the AFL went. So it's like the Falcons defeat the 49ers. That seems like somewhat of a surprise. 21-16. The defending champion Colts lose their opener at home to the Rams. So all those off-season moves that the Rams made looks like they paid off here early on. So they win 14-7. Chiefs beat the Patriots 20-14. So they're 2-0. Houston gets their first win, a 21-13 win over Buffalo. Loses their first. Cincinnati rebounds from the opening day loss, and they defeat San Diego 35-7. San Diego is now 0-2. St. Louis beats Dallas in Dallas 45-28. Bit of a surprise there. Not so much that the Cardinals win, but by how much they win by. It's like a blowout. New York and Denver tie at 10. Green Bay defeats Chicago 21-16. Washington over New Orleans 34-21. The Vikings get a win over the Giants 13-10. The Raiders go to 2-0. They defeat Miami 20-17. Cleveland defeats Philadelphia 35-17, and Detroit beats Pittsburgh 23-0. So let's go to the current week. Excuse me. Sorry. And let's stay with the NFL now. So to change the rule set, let's go ahead and sim this one, this one, this one. Falcons, Rams, Colts, Vikings. That seems like a big game. Cowboys, Saints, Steelers, Eagles, Bears, Cardinals. That's it for the NFL games. Let's go back here. Let's change the rule set to the AFL mode. Let's go back into week 3 and let's finish up these AFL games. All right. All right, let's reveal those. All right, so Boston upsets Oakland. Wow, that's a big one. 21-6. Raiders their first loss. Let's see, Denver defeats Buffalo. Kansas City over Cincinnati. Cleveland defeats Washington. The Giants and the Lions tie. Packers win again. Houston wins. The Rams win. They're 2-0. The Vikings defeat the Colts. Cowboys over the Saints. Eagles over Pittsburgh. Jets over the Chargers. And the Cardinals over the Bears. All right, so let's go ahead and go to current week. Let's check the standings real quick. You can see there the Capital Division has a 3-way tie for first. Cardinals and Browns both undefeated in the Century Division, as are the Packers and Vikings in the Central. Rams out in front in the Coastal, In the AFL, you've got Houston out in front in the Eastern Conference and the Chiefs out in front in the Western Conference. All right, let's check our rule set again. Looks like, okay, we're still in AFL mode, so let's go back here. Week 4, let's go ahead and do the AFL games first. All right, I think that's all of them, right? I think that's all of them, yep. Let's go back here, change this to no, go back to update career, week 4, and then we do the NFL games. All right, let's reveal them. Okay, Colts. Wow, Colts they get their first win, but I just realized they were 0-2. They don't win by a lot either. So it's that defending championship jinx and that's going on in the NFL right now. You saw how the Bears fell after winning Super Bowl II last season, and now the Colts are off to a slow start in '69 after winning the Super Bowl in '68. Jets lose, so they're not off to a great start. They lose to Boston 35-28. The Lions roll. They're unbeaten still. Chiefs lose their first game, losing to Denver. Denver's undefeated, 3-0-1. So that's something. Buffalo defeats Houston. The Rams stay unbeaten. They keep the Saints winless. Miami defeats Oakland. Wow, 24-8. That's a big upset. Raiders now defending AFL champions are now 2-2. Vikings remain unbeaten. They defeat the Packers in a showdown of unbeatens. Giants, Bears give the Giants a tough time, but Giants emerge victorious in that game, 30-27. Dallas defeats Philadelphia. Cardinals remain unbeaten. They keep the Steelers winless, 21-14. Chargers get their first win of the season. They're 13 and they're 13-10 win. They're 1-3. And the 49ers defeat the Redskins 24-7. Okay. Let's see where we're at now. We've got. I just have to remember where we're at. Okay, so the NFL. So let's go ahead and do the NFL games first. Excuse me. Okay, so send that one, send that one. Boom, 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 boom. That's all the NFL games. Let's go back here to the career editor, change the rules to yes. 2-point conversion. Go back and do the AFL games. I think that's everything. Excuse me, let's reveal those. Alright, let's just go down. I'm not going to talk too much here. My voice is going out, so I'll spare you my raspy voice and just take a look at the scores. Alright. Let's continue on. So let's do the AFL games. I think we're in the AFL rule set, so let's go ahead and keep going. All right. And the NFL games. All right. Take a look at these games real quick. All right, let's take a look at the standings real quick. things are shaping up here. As probably expected, Dallas and Cleveland are the division leaders in the Eastern Conference of the NFL. Minnesota and Los Angeles leading things in the West. And in the AFL, we've got Boston out in front of the Eastern Conference, and the Raiders and Chiefs are tied with a record of 4-2. All right, let's see. We're in NFL mode, so let's go to Week 7 and do the NFL games. Oops, let's do the AFL game. Is that everything? It is. Okay. All right. Let's excuse me. All right. Let's go back here now and finish up the AFL games. All right. Show those games real quick here. One thing I noticed about, and I love this game. I think it does a great job in terms of giving just plausible results. I mentioned this before, but I do notice there's a lot of ties. I know there were a lot of ties back then because they didn't have overtime, so that stands to reason. But I always felt like maybe it's some of the play calling logic when you get towards the end of the game, but I just feel like there's a lot more ties in this in this simulation than there typically is in reality, even without overtimes. But anyway, just an observation, not a big deal. Let's see, where are we? Sorry, I lost my track of where we were. Okay, so we're in AFL mode. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and simulate the AFL games first. And I think that's all the AFL games. I think, right? Okay. Back here, and the career editor. Change this to no. And we're in week 8 now, so we might stop here. Let's go ahead and see how many games we've got completed now. I think we're going to do one more week because the NFL teams, I think, have not completed half their schedule yet. Okay. So let's see where we are. Let's look at these real quick. Let's see. All right. And another tie. All right, let's go to the current week. Let's step back out here for a second. Let me look at the standings. So we've got 7 games. So Dallas is halfway through their schedule. Philadelphia is not yet halfway through theirs, I don't believe. Oh, no, they are. That's 7. All right. Not very good at math. 7, 7, 7, 7. I think that's everything. I think everyone's got 7 games. They play 14 total, so in the AFL they should have 8 because they started a week early. Okay. All right, so we're at the halfway point, so that pretty much finishes up. So again, let's look at this. Dallas ahead in the Capital Division, Cleveland ahead in the Century Division, Minnesota ahead and still unbeaten in the Central, as are the Rams unbeaten and untied in the Coastal Division, way out ahead of the defending champion Colts, who are at 500 at the halfway point. In the AFL Eastern Conference, it's a logjam in first place. Nobody really, stepping up there. Everybody's at 500 between Houston, Boston, and Miami. In the Western Conference, Kansas City has a 1-game lead over the Raiders. So about what you would expect there. So there you go. Let's look at the season leader. Let's look at injuries. Let's look at injuries so far. Anything that sticks out? Doesn't look like anyone's out for the year yet. So that's good to see. Most of the teams are still at full strength, except for a few of these folks that are going to be out in the immediate future. Season leaders. Let's look at quarterbacks first. So let's look at yards. Joe Namath leads both leagues right now. Leads the AFL with 1805. Norm Snead of the Eagles is the leader in passing yards for the NFL. Let's look at rating. Charlie Johnson for the Cardinals is tops in both leagues. In the AFL, it's Greg Cook, who's a rookie, has an 88.8 rating. So pretty good there. Touchdowns, looks like Mike Taliaferro, if I'm pronouncing that right. Boston Patriots, he has 15 touchdown passes. So there's the passing stats, rushing, yards. Let's look at that first. Tom Wittishik is the top leading rusher in the NFL with 634 yards. Bit of a surprise there, followed by Leroy Kelly. Top running back, second year in a row, is Will Granger for the Houston Oilers. That guy is, let's look at his career. Yeah, 68, he had 1,500 yards, and then he had over 1,067 as well. I don't know. Sorry to cough there for a second. I don't know if how realistic that is compared to the real life stats, but definitely at the top of his game in the AFL. Touchdowns. Roy Kelly leads the league in rushing touchdowns. In the NFL, at least, Dickie Post leads in the AFL along with Warren McVay. Receiving receptions. Harold Jackson is tops in the NFL. Lance Allworth is tops in the AFL. Yards, Don Maynard leads all receivers. And then Harold Jackson. He's a rookie. I don't know why he's not shown up as a rookie there, but oh no, he's not a rookie. I'm sorry. I don't know why I was thinking he was a rookie. But he's the second leading receiver or the top receiver in rushing reception yards in the NFL for the Eagles. Touchdowns. Get Harold Jackson, excuse me, and then Ron Sellers for the AFL touchdowns. Let's go to defense. Let's see. Tops in the NFL is Dick Butkus. Tops in the AFL is Jim Shainski. Sacks, 14 sacks for Verlin Biggs. Leads the Jets, or leads the AFL. And then Jack Gregory leads the NFL with the Browns. By the way, I know they didn't count sacks back then, but if they did, and that was included in today's stats, Jack Gregory would be one of the all-time leading sack leaders, just so everyone knows. People don't often think of Jack Gregory, but he was a sack master for a few teams back in the 70s, 60s and 70s. All right. Kicker, let's see. I don't know if I can go by percentage, but looks like Kurt Knight is the most accurate kicker for the Redskins. Most points is Jan Stenerud. Not a surprise there. Leading punter is Gerald Wilson. He was a great punter for the Chiefs. Kick returners. Let's see. Who's got the most yards per return? That would be Jim Duncan for the Baltimore Colts. And then one touchdown. That was his. And then punt returners. We've got Lem Barney leads everyone with 13.7 yards per return. And who leads the league in touchdowns? Bob Campbell for the Steelers. And Roger Worley had one for the Cardinals. So there you go. Those are the stats. See, we looked at the standings, so let's look at what's on tap for Week 9. Packers and Colts, Miami, Boston, both those teams are 500. Steelers and Bears, Saints and Cowboys, Falcons and Lions, Bengals and Oilers, Chargers and Chiefs. Not not many big games here. The 49ers and Rams, which would normally be a big game, but looks like 49ers are struggling at 69, while the Rams are 7-0. Here's what looks like could be a competitive game between playoff contenders, Cleveland and Minnesota. In fact, I think both those teams are leading their divisions. So that's a big game. That'll probably be the game we feature. Let's see. Buffalo, the Jets, Denver, and Oakland. Both teams with winning records. So that's another good one that could be a good feature. Giants at the Cardinals. And the Eagles and the Redskins. So probably I'll feature this Cleveland Minnesota game for week number 9, and I'll spare everyone my voice and just have that game play out like I normally do from week to week as we work our way towards through the rest of the season. So thanks for watching, and more to come.